and welcome to Healthy Cooking for Food Lovers. My name is Marie-France Garon. I am making for you today the Aubergine Parmigiana. They are the eggplants Parmigiana. Now, those beauties are from our garden. We just picked them this morning. First time we grow aubergine is this year, and look at the beauties. So I'm really pleased with that. So this recipe is quite simple again. However, it just takes a little time to make. So we get started, and the first thing that we do, of course, we're gonna cut the aubergine. And so some people like to cut them long ways. I like to make some little slices. So let's get started. We're just gonna take off the first little part here, and we make them 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter wide because we want them to be quite thick, because I like them to be pretty much all the same size. So we're just gonna cut all of them, and the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna salt the aubergine. So if you had aubergine and maybe you find that there's a little bit of a bitter taste, that's because they weren't salted, because we call it degorging. So it's gonna take out the bitterness with the salt, and after that we can start cooking them. So this is the first step to do. Anytime that you use aubergines, it's a good idea to do the degorging first, and therefore you don't have bitter aubergines. So about 1/2 inch slices. And I like to keep the skin. Some people like to peel them. The reason why I like to keep the skin, because after we start cooking them, it handles better, because it's gonna stay together instead of being too soft and falling apart maybe. So, and it's really okay to eat the skin of the aubergine. Once it's cooked, is perfect. Okay, we have 2 aubergines here. They're quite large. So the next thing that we do is degorge. So I just put it on a baking dish because it's easy to lie them down like this, and just overlay a little bit, doesn't matter. We're gonna put quite a bit of salt here. Me, I like to always use the pink Himalayan salt. That's my first choice. Full of minerals and very good for you. Now, don't worry about how much salt, because we're gonna wash that off after, and they're gonna stay salty. So I'm starting to put all the salt, and this will draw all the moisture and the bitterness out of the aubergine. Here, just make sure that we have on all of them some salt. So there, as you can see, there's lots of salt, but it's not gonna be too salty. Okay, so we're gonna leave this for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we're gonna come back to it. So now let's go and prepare our tomato sauce to go with our Aubergine Parmigiana. Hey, I have something else to show you. I'm so excited. Look at this baby, 8.5 pound baby. It's a butternut squash. Call them courge, butternut courge. Australians, they call it pumpkin. We're not using this today, but I thought I'll show you, because Mom found it when she went to pick the aubergine this morning, and she came back with this as well from our garden. How big is that? So watch out for the next show. We're gonna make something with the courge. Okay, now for our tomato sauce for our aubergine, we're gonna start with the olive oil. We're gonna put quite a good amount of olive oil here. I'm putting about 4 tablespoons of olive oil. My pot is already hot, so I'm gonna put an onion. So 1.5 brown onion all in here. So it's going very nicely now. Perfect. We're gonna add the garlic. I have 2 big cloves of garlic here. in the pot with the onion. And again, the same, the garlic, it's important that we don't burn it, so it's all just sweating, as you can hear. And now we're gonna add our crushed tomato. Now, we prepared this morning with a beautiful tomato from our garden, and now we had some really big one, over 1 pound, 1.5 pound, one tomato. And so, but we prepared the tomato sauce already, and then we're gonna just add it to our pot right now. But we're gonna make some other time our tomato sauce, because we're gonna prepare a lot for the winter. So we're gonna have a chance to have a look how we make it. So there's 4 cups of fresh tomato crushed. So now we have our tomato here, our onion, our garlic. So we're gonna add some fresh oregano from our garden. Tomato oregano, that goes together. So you just pull out all the leaves, and then we'll just roughly chop it to put in our tomato sauce. So we're just gonna cover that a little bit, starts to simmer, and we're gonna add our herbs and let it cook for about 20 minutes. So this is our fresh oregano from our garden. Just take it off the stem, and we're gonna just roughly chop it, just very roughly, just like this. And voila. And to this, what I'm gonna add is, as you probably know with tomato, we always like to add a little bit of sugar because it cuts the acidity of the tomato. But today I'm gonna add my favorite thing. It's called stevia. It's also from our garden, and it's a special sweetener that we use. You can buy that in the supermarket, and it looks like sugar. And this is what I use in my coffee or in some salad dressing or different things where I need sugar. But in the summer, when we have the fresh stevia plant in our garden, I use the plant. So we're gonna again just take some of those leaves off here, put some stevia instead of putting sugar in our tomato sauce. So that much will be enough probably. So to chop some herbs, you just make a little bowl, fold it all together, and it's easy to just chop like that. And we're gonna put all of this in our sauce, tomato sauce. It's just simmering now. Perfect. And we're gonna let it simmer for another 15 minutes and cover it up. Now let's go back and have a look at our aubergine eggplants, because they're sweating out all the bitterness with the salt on top. Should be ready now, and we're gonna wash all that salt, and we're gonna cook those aubergines as well. So, et voila, our aubergines, they are all sweaty. Come and have a look at this. And so we draw all the moisture and the bitterness out of them, and you're gonna see it's all wet everywhere like this. So that means they're ready. So we're gonna just throw them in here and go and rinse them off under the tap water. So we're just gonna take all the extra salt off and wash them, and then of course dry them properly on a cloth before we cook them. So let's just go and wash this now. Okay, now we just washed the aubergine, and I'm just gonna lie them down flat here on a paper towel to take all the water out, dry them off, put another layer, and I'm gonna use just another paper towel to pat them down like this. I've removed all the paper and they are dry. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna just brush them with some olive oil, cook them in the pan. So I have my pan heating up already. I'm using a grilled pan. So it's nearly warm already, and it's a pan with the strip, you see? Just because it looks good. But when you use a pan with the strip like this, you always oil your ingredients, no oil in the pan. So we apply the oil to the aubergine, and this pan is already hot, so we're gonna already send some in the pan and put them in. Just 4 of them now, and it should be hot enough. Perfect, perfect. Can only hear a little sizzle. That's perfect. So I'm just gonna continue to brush all of them with the oil while this is cooking. I'm just gonna leave them about 1.5 minutes on each side and take them out, and we'll be ready to prepare our Parmigiana. Perfect. They are perfect. Look at this. So I've chosen to cook them in the pan with just a little olive oil, just because I feel it's just healthier. But if you follow the traditional recipe of eggplant parmigiano, you will find that very often they will fry the eggplant, they will dip it in some flour and then in the egg and then in the breadcrumb and deep fry. And of course it's very delicious, but I find it's worked just as well when we cook them like this with just a little olive oil in the pan, and I just prefer this version. Not a big fan of deep frying, so I just choose that method and it works perfect. Alright, we're at our last batch of aubergine, and it's already just about ready. So just turn them over, so another 1.5 minutes and we'll be already building our Parmigiana. Here's our beautiful tomato sauce, just off the simmer, and the finishing touch now. Remember, I didn't add salt first, so I will add the salt now to the tomato, salt and pepper, lots of pepper. And of course, we have to put some basil. A big bunch of fresh basil from our garden here. And we're just gonna roughly chop it. It smells amazing. Basil and tomato, of course, that goes together. So just roughly chop like this. All in the beautiful tomato here. And our sauce is ready. So with the basil, we don't cook it. It just comes at the end like this and give all the beautiful aroma to our tomato here. All right, we're ready to do our aubergine parmigiana. All right, all the preparation is done, and now it's the easy part. We're gonna put our Parmigiana in a baking dish here. So I've chosen a size that I think it's gonna fit. We want to have about 3 or 4 layers. So let's get started. We start with the sauce at the bottom. You will see that it's just needs only a little bit at every step, not too much, because the star of the dish is really the aubergine. So we don't want to drown it in the sauce, or we don't want to overpower. So voila, we have our tomato, and then we already put a little bit of Parmesan cheese, the Parmigiano, freshly grated, just a little bit here. Okay, now we have our aubergine. We just put them over line just a little bit like this. Perfect. So now our bottom part is all laid down, and then we're gonna add some more tomato sauce. Only a little bit on top, not too much. Big chunks of basil through, that's perfect. Add some mozzarella, and it's grated already, but not too much because it's very stringy, so we don't want to add too much, but at every steps we're gonna add a little bit of mozzarella as well, and of course Parmigiano. Okay, we're gonna send this like that in the oven at 190 Celsius, 375 Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes. And then we're gonna add on the last layer of mozzarella and Parmigiano to finish off, and another 10 minutes more in the oven, and that'll be done. So let's go and put this in the oven. Look at this, it's perfect. Now the finishing touch, and it'll go back in the oven for another 10 minutes. We have some fresh mozzarella, fresh. So we're gonna just put it apart like this and cover it up all over with our fresh mozzarella. And of course we add more Parmesan cheese. So it's your eggplant Parmigiana, Aubergine Parmigiana, and lots of Parmigiano to finish. Fresh mozzarella and freshly grated Parmesan in the oven for another 10 minutes. Et voila, it's perfect. Our eggplant Parmigiano, aubergine Parmigiana, it's perfect. I've let it cool down for quite a few hours because it's much easier to be able to cut it and serve it. So what I like to do is I like to cool it down, cut it in little slices already, and leave it like this until maybe we eat it like tomorrow, and we heat it really slowly, just warm it up a little bit, and that's the perfect way to have it. Now let's have a look inside. We're not gonna wait any longer, and we're gonna have a look at it. Oh, it's perfect. Look at this. Wow. All the layers of eggplant and tomato sauce, Parmigiano, mozzarella. It's perfect. Bon appetit.